Right, cultural intelligence. Senior executives, senior leaders, they serve as a model for vision, for purpose, and company culture. And there is a huge differential in profits at companies with aligned and mature cultures versus those who fail to cultivate their cultures. So cultural intelligence is easily learned and developed, but it is an extremely important skill. I'll put up a couple of slides and give you some pointers.
Fortunately, EQ came around, emotional intelligence. It wasn't too great for those of us who are women, because we were all supposed to be terribly good at it, but we'll miss that point out. But EQ began to take on, and people realized that there were things called human beings in this, and that on the whole it would be a good thing if leaders had a bit of EQ. Unfortunately, you then began to get people who say, I'm very good with people. And then they would forget those two extra words that need to go after it, which is like me. And I think increasingly you're now beginning to see people who know that you need CQ, the ability to work with people and lead people who are not like you. Crucial. I think we'll carry on appointing people for IQ because no one's got the imagination to break away from it.
The main thing is that the leader is the model. The leader is the person that the workers, the employees, and the partners as well, the employees look up to. And the leader must be a model for the vision of the business and the purpose and the company culture. What is the company culture at your place of work? Is it a can do, will do, or is it a you do, not me? I wonder if you've done the homework. If you have, then you've posted in the QA. That's the question answer section. If you've done that, others may have responded. And if that is the case, we are all one glorious team, a global team, because people are contributing. And to get ahead with leadership, the aim is to build better teams. Leaders who have high-performing businesses leaders who have high-performing teams say that they are more effective at understanding, communicating, forecasting, organizing, and planning to deal with complex initiatives. More able, more effective at delivering stakeholder value. Remember, the stakeholders are not just the shareholders. They are the employees, the trade unions, the local community, the national economy, the suppliers, the retailers, any agent who has contact with the business. Stakeholders are not just shareholders. And so therefore, if the team is working as a team, working together, and the team includes the retailers, the suppliers, all the components of the supply chain, as well as the agents, as well as the employees, then if you're all working together as a team, you're more likely to be able to give customer satisfaction. Remember, for example, that marketing is the management process responsible for identifying, anticipating, and satisfying customers' needs and wants profitably. Working as a team, you're more likely to be able to achieve this. So the quality of a business's management team is often the most cited reason for success in mergers, horizontal, vertical, lateral, or diversifying, or in any private equity deal. And a breakdown in communication between the team or an imbalance between the various team members is often the main reason cited for business failure. The successful leader must also be an innovator. Technology is always evolving. Who would have thought about mobile phones 20 years ago? Yes, some technological advancements were predicted in various science fiction novels. That is true. But technology is always evolving, always presenting new opportunities for management or senior management looking to transform their business. That's especially true when they're pursuing net zero. But it's also true for companies that are making the shift to put software at the heart of their business. Leaders will be looking for innovators with software experience and who want to explore the use of artificial intelligence in the context of responsibility. trustworthiness, and ethics. Artificial intelligence. How many leaders are worried that they will be replaced by artificial intelligence? Perhaps Udemy tutors in time will be replaced by artificial intelligence. There are already companies offering artificial intelligence where you send in your text and then a face on the screen mouths all the text. So you just have to research the lecture, send it in, and the face moves with the text. So you get a young, attractive, photogenic person offering a lecture. Instead of, well, anyway, let's move to the cartoon. A leader should also be an empowerer. Yes, when you go to work, you're getting paid to do a particular job and you have to be there, or a series of tasks, and you have to be there, for example, between 9 and 5. Maybe you're on flexi time. Maybe therefore you can be there any time between 8:30 and 10:30. That gives you some control as to what time you arrive, and also on flexi time as to what time you leave. You may also be able to choose particular time of the day for your lunch break, but not everybody has that luxury. And so for the leader to be successful, the leader should try and empower within company policy, within the constraints of the business, empower the workers as much as possible. So decision making, the best leaders are those who enable the workforce, the employees, to make the best decisions. For example, this course that you are now on, this very short course, it's not following a particular syllabus. There's no examination at the end of it. Yes, you can get a short course diploma, but it's not going to get you into university. There's no quizzes that have very difficult questions and they don't give you the answers and you have to submit them and they're marked. There's no extended essay to be written. And so the value of this course really is what you are learning while you are listening to this, as well as, of course, the cartoons. Now, if what you learn on this course enables you to make good decisions, enables you to get ahead and stay ahead as a leader in a short time just by watching this course, yes, you get a completion certificate, but so just by watching this course, then it will have been successful if it gets you to think, if it gets you to apply. For example, if you are in a long drawn out war with someone or a long drawn out battle, who makes the decisions? The overall strategy might be decided at the beginning and might be changed every so often, but the day-to-day decisions are made by those involved in the battle. Again, it's with any team sports. Take, for example, football. Who makes the decisions? Well, the manager picks the team. But when the ball comes to a particular player, it's the player who makes the decision, the instant decision, what to do, whether to kick it left or right or pass or head, etc., etc. And the opposition make the decision whether or not to tackle the person or play the ball. And so the good leader enables the workforce, the individual employees, to make decisions as often as they can and gives he or she the necessary tools in order to do so.
So one of the most powerful things you can do to improve customer experience, to improve employee experience, is to empower your employees. And what we're going to do now is go through 9 ideas for empowering employees that can help you do it better and more effectively. Now, the first one is just loosen the reins, right? There's all these reasons that employees fail with customers. And if you can loosen the reins, you can reduce the hassle. Just give them some more leeway in general. Just understand that there's a fear associated with empowering employees. You're worried about what they might do, and it's usually, not always, but usually unfounded. We usually have the reins a little too tight. So just loosen up. That's the first thing. All right, the second thing is this: broaden and deepen responsibilities. This is called sort of vertical and horizontal empowerment, which is job enlargement, which is including more responsibilities, and then job enrichment, which is deepening the responsibilities within the role. All right, the third one is going to be demonstrate that you trust your team.
How do you do this? Well, you share the strategy that the business has. Yes, the business arguably exists to maximize their profits, or perhaps the business exists to maximize the gains to the community, or perhaps to maximize revenue, or perhaps satisficing, or perhaps to have the highest quality good at the lowest possible cost to the consumer, to give everybody job security. Perhaps the executives have their pay capped and their pay or their salaries published.
Times are tough for many households with soaring inflation following the huge economic disruption triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic. The personal finances of leading chief executives, on the other hand, are looking very healthy indeed. Executive pay packages have been surging on both sides of the Atlantic. In the UK, total remuneration for the heads of FTSE 100 companies increased by a third last year, with a median of £4.1 million. One study found that the typical UK chief executive now has an income more than 80 times that of their median employee. But that's nothing compared with the US, where the same ratio reached 245 to 1 last year.
So workforce know about any pay differentials. Perhaps there's an annual review. In other words, there might be and should be huge transparency in a business. So the sharing of long-term strategy, vision or mission statement or vision statement, and then the aims and the objectives with the workforce is likely to motivate them, and by communicating with them, they can act with autonomy because they know each other and they understand the desired outcome. In recent years, it's been said that a leader who's autocratic can get things done more quickly. Just to do this, and if you don't do that, then you lose your job. Or if they don't do that, profits go down and there's massive redundancies. But over a period of time, it's not going to build morale. It's not going to make the teams feel like they are entrusted. It's not going to reduce labour turnover. It's not going to encourage workers to contribute to suggestion schemes. Many years ago, I used to work in the quality control department of a major car company. And one of the things that we did is we identified the top 10 quality problems with the cars. For example, every model, perhaps the torque tolerance on the wheels was slightly too low, or there was a paint job this week and on the left-hand door there was a bit missing, etc., etc. And we produced these cards with the top 10 quality problems, and they were to fit the size of everybody's pocket, their breast pocket, and they were to carry the cards in their breast pocket so they could look at the cards and they'd be reminded, top 10 things, of what they should be on the lookout for quality. The problem was that the managing director, a very slim managing director, some would say small, some would say thin, his breast pocket of his suit was 1/4 of an inch smaller than the cards. Now, what should a good leader do? Well, he would cut down the card a bit so it fitted in. But he said, oh no, this could be the same with others. We're not going to ask and try and find out, but this is going to 10,000 workers, and it could be that 500 of them have a pocket that's slightly too small. So reprint those 10,000 cards, 1/4 of an inch smaller, to fit in everybody's pocket. Do you think that was a wise move? It certainly meant that subsequent cards, because these were produced, I think, every month, or perhaps every week, it did mean that subsequent cards were slightly smaller and there's no problem of fitting in to people's pockets. Because the overall aim was to ensure that workers knew what was wrong or what the top 10 quality problems were for that week or that month. However, the way it was communicated was, Mr. X and X says that this card is too big for his pocket, so he wants 10,000 more printed. It wasn't explained thoroughly, and it became a laughing stock. And there was some hostility from the trade unions talking about how it was demeaning for the workers to have to go and reprint the card because it didn't fit one person's pocket, and that's just typical of management attitude, etc. Perhaps it was the right move to make sure it fitted everybody's pocket, but it was communicated the wrong way. A business, to succeed, should authentically support causes, important causes, not only to succeed as a business, and a business entity, but to succeed as an employer of people, and for people to succeed on this planet. we have to work together. Need I mention how many wars are ongoing at the moment? Or should I just stay with climate change? By working together, we can prosper. For example, there was a case recently of a Ukrainian football team. They got, £80 million transfer fee.
The president of Shakhtar Donetsk has pledged more than £20 million from Mikhailo Mudrik's transfer fee to the Ukrainian war effort. The most expensive signing of the January window so far reached a conclusion yesterday after several late twists and turns. Despite being seemingly on the verge of joining Arsenal, Mudryk was officially unveiled as a Chelsea player yesterday.
And they donated a huge chunk, about 20 million, to those seeking to escape or at least survive the current war in Ukraine. They recognised that we're all in this together in a way. If we all fight each other, some will survive, but most won't. For example, in 2016, Patagonia announced it would donate 100% of its global retail and online sales from its shopping event on Black Friday straight to grassroots organisations that work in local communities to protect our air, water and soil for future generations.
Patagonia founder Ivan Chouinard just donated the entire company valued at $3 billion to fight climate change. Silicon Valley tech bros and venture capitalists are left scratching their heads. The move has been described as the exact opposite of cryptocurrency and that it actually helps the climate. Faced with a moral dilemma, where else will we get a $240 fleece pullover that will fit the sensibilities of a remote working programmer? Good shit, Ivan.
In my own case, I have a course on Ukraine and a course on art therapy and PTSD. All the revenue forever, or at least until the war finishes, goes to help those who are suffering because of the war in Ukraine. And for a short time, all the revenue for all my courses went to that cause. I have other courses where the money goes elsewhere, but the majority of the courses, the money goes to me. But what I'm saying is, for leadership, setting the tone for others, setting the example, enabling, encouraging morale, should support important causes. Something, as I said, like protecting our air, water and soil for future generations. And it's likely, as the cost of living and environmental crises continue and multiply and spread in 2023, you're more likely to see leaders make more important, bigger and more public leaps of faith to support important causes. And even after we die, if the money that we leave goes to support important causes, so our memory will live on in the minds of others. And who knows what happens, who knows for sure what happens when we die? Perhaps it's just a migration of souls, and the goodness that we leave behind, some aspects of it may go with us. I leave that thought with you. I hope you have enjoyed this short course. I hope you have done the homework, but most importantly, I hope you have participated, joined in or started discussions and started thinking about leadership in 2023 and beyond, how to get ahead, how to stay ahead for the benefit of all. Thank you. I saw an interview on television a couple of days ago, and it was a Scottish journalist, and he was interviewing Rishi Sunak, who's the British, at the time of making this lecture, I mean, things change, he's the British Prime Minister. And he was asked whether he could guarantee something or other would be Conservative policy over the next 4 or 5 years, and he wouldn't answer because he wanted to talk about opening of free ports and how it was bringing jobs to the local communities. And the Scottish journalist got a bit angry with him. So you're not answering the question, not answering the question. But really, Rishi Sunak was not voted in by the electorate. He was voted in by the Conservative Party, and not even the whole party, just by the members of Parliament, following the total failure of Liz Truss, who was British Prime Minister for a very short time and cost billions. And the reason he was not able to answer, quite simply, he didn't know whether he would definitely be Prime Minister going into the next election.
Still Prime Minister after that election, would you accept the result of that de facto referendum?
I tell you what I'm focused on is delivering for the people in Scotland. Today's announcement...
Yeah, but that's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you about the possibility of a de facto referendum in the next general election, which is what the First Minister is proposing. You spoke to her about it last night. Would you accept the outcome of that?
We didn't talk about the next general election. What we did talk about, though, is the things that we can do to deliver for people here in Scotland by working constructively together. And today's announcement of 2 new free ports...
Yeah, but you're completely ignoring my question, which is about the possibility of the next general election being a de facto referendum. Would you accept the outcome of that?
What I'm focused on...
I know, but that's not what I'm asking you what you're focused on. I'm asking you to focus on this because there's a lot of people in Scotland who are very interested in this. Would you accept the outcome of a de facto referendum?
Do you know what? I was out all of yesterday evening, I've been out all of today, and what people are talking to me about is what we can do to actually make their lives better in the here and now.
You're just not going to talk about what they're talking about. You're just going to ignore my question you're just going to ignore my question about Scotland's constitutional future. Is that what you're doing?
No, I think when it comes to when it comes to a general election, people will make up their own minds on what they want to vote on, right? So it's not really for me to talk about that. What I can
it is, because that's what I'm asking you about. It sounds like you're ignoring the mandate at the Scottish Parliament. You're ignoring a mandate potentially at a Westminster election. Are you ignoring democracy?
No, absolutely not. What we are doing is delivering for people here in Scotland. And now obviously, the Scottish government tried to put forward something which the Supreme Court said was not appropriate. I respect the decision of the Supreme Court. And in the here and now, I think what people in Scotland want is for us to make a difference to their lives. And we want to create jobs and opportunities.
But they have no democratic right to express their own opinion on Scotland's future.
I said the Supreme Court has made its decision. We respect the decision of
the Scottish people
can. And actually what we are doing is delivering for the Scottish people with initiatives like the 2 free ports here today that we're announcing, which will bring jobs, investment and opportunity to their regions in Scotland. It's a very positive example of what we're going to try and do, and that's what I'm set on delivering.
Prime Minister, thanks for joining us on STV News. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
In other words, there was no clear succession plan. And anyway, going into the election, he might not even win the election. And so one of the aspects of leadership, for this to empower, for this to motivate, for this to show, demonstrably show organisation and planning and forecasting and control and communicating, is to have a succession plan. Leaders need to understand, and I'm sure that they do, that they are evolving just as everybody is. We can all listen, we can all learn from others, and we can all improve and grow ourselves. And I don't mean just in physical performance. We can all get a little bit fitter. We can all tweak our diet a bit. We can all improve our mental health. We can all improve our spiritual health. But we can all learn from each other, from competitors, from textbooks, from what we hear on the news. And I'm sorry to keep banging on about this, the more that people communicate, the more that people participate in the question answer section, the more we will all learn from each other, which is why I urge people to participate in the QA. So, if leaders understand that they too can listen, they too can learn, they will improve and they will grow. And by doing that, they will help to enable others to listen, to learn and be able to grow. We can't do it all ourselves. Leaders know at some stage someone is going to be better than them, and power sharing is in the best interest of everyone, including ourselves. And that's leaving aside physical mortality. There will come a time even the best leader will just be a little bit too old for the job, a little bit too slow in thinking, a little bit too slow in reacting. And so a successful leader will not surround himself or herself with yes men or yes people, but people who will question them in a constructive way and provide different opinions, feedback and solutions. It's like when you write a review on a course. If you write a review, as long as it's constructive, then it's going to be beneficial to other students as well as to the instructor. I'm on different courses and I always write long reviews. Lecture 1 was about this, I felt that perhaps this or this was the person's head in the corner of the screen, the rest of the screen was blank when they could have put some bullet points, or after a time it was a bit monotonous, or the voice wasn't very clear, or this was explained really well, or the 5 key points were summarised at the end, or each lecture was more or less the same time and it was easy to plan and it was easy to take notes and I liked the links at the bottom, etc., etc. So the review can be constructive, or it can be destructive and just say, it was rubbish, the voice was terrible, the lessons weren't planned, I learnt nothing, I want my money back. And so by encouraging all students to review, I don't mean just rate, I mean review, then I'm encouraging people to share opinions, I'm encouraging people to give feedback. But also in the QA, in the question answer, I'm encouraging people to give opinions, I'm encouraging people to give feedback, I'm encouraging people to discuss. When I set homework, I'm encouraging people to submit. Because by doing this, we learn from others. By doing this, we get feedback. And by doing this in business, we're more likely to get solutions to problems.